The story opens like a high-budget fantasy anime. A massive bear-like monster charges toward a group of 4 teenagers. 3 girls and 1 boy stand their ground calmly, showing no fear. As the creature closes in, the boy steps forward and spreads his arms, facing the beast with quiet confidence. He is the legendary dragon god's successor, Hinomori Ryuga. The aura is so strong that even the monster probably regrets logging in today. Next, Yukimiya Shiori, the Shrine Maiden of Fortune, raises her sacred weapon and unleashes a long and dramatic spell. In short, she freezes the monster in place and tells everyone to attack now. Support players really carry the team. Then, Aogasaki Rei, known as Guillotine Waltz, dashes forward with her wooden sword. She casually cuts off one of the monster's arms. Not wanting to be left out, the cutest girl, Elmira McCartney, joins the attack as well. She says she cannot just stand still and watch. Cute on the outside, chaos on the inside. Finally, Ryuga leaps into the air and calls upon the dragon god's divine power. Dragon-shaped energy surrounds him as he delivers the finishing blow. The impact is so massive that it leaves a giant crater in the ground. After the battle, Ryuga looks exhausted. The 3 girls immediately gather around him and praise his performance. Rei and Elmira keep talking about random stuff, but Shiori notices that Ryuga's hand is bleeding and offers to heal him. Before she can use her power, Rei stops her, as such a small injury is not worth it. Elmira then grabs Shiori and boldly volunteers herself. Everyone acts like he's the only man alive. At that exact moment, another boy witnesses the unbelievable scene of 3 gorgeous girls surrounding Ryuga. Completely stunned, he can only shout Ryuga's name in disbelief. This is Kobayashi Ichiru. He cannot believe that beautiful girls once again surround him. Ryuga notices him and nervously calls out to his best friend, asking when he got there. Ichiru casually says he arrived just now because he heard an explosion and came to investigate. Then he suddenly remembers the rumor about a dangerous monster lurking nearby and starts panicking. He warns everyone that the monster could still be around and says they should leave immediately. Meanwhile, the girls stand there acting completely innocent. Ryuga calmly tells Ichiru that everything is fine and that the monster no longer poses a threat. Ichiru looks confused, so Ryuga points to the monster's severed arm lying on the ground. He explains that when he arrives, the creature was already dead, and he has a strong feeling that this is the same monster from the rumors. Ichiru stares at the massive remains in shock and wonders what kind of being could defeat another monster like this. Ryuga simply says he does not know either, but assures him that the danger is over. He tells his friend that they should head home. Ichiru agrees, still trying to process the absurd scene. As they walk away, Ichiru's imagination shifts into full narrator mode. In his mind, Hinomori Ryuga becomes a secret hero who possesses supernatural powers and protects the world from endless waves of monsters. Day after day, he saves humanity without anyone ever knowing, fighting alongside his beautiful and mysterious companions. Then comes Ichiru himself, not just a normal friend, but the official protagonist's buddy, the one responsible for handling the slice-of-life parts of the story. In anime terms, he serves as the comedy relief character who keeps the pacing balanced between life-or-death battles and school gossip. Ichiru proudly declares that this world exists solely as the stage for Ryuga's story. But every great protagonist needs supporting characters. A hero cannot carry the entire series alone. That is why Ichiru dedicates himself to his sacred duty. He stands by Ryuga's side as the ultimate best friend and trusted companion, no matter what happens. To everyone else, he remains just Kobayashi Ichiru, but in his own mind, he has become a certified professional side character, and he takes that job very seriously. Ichiru explains that he once dreamed of sitting in the main seat too. As a kid, he always cheered for the Red Ranger and looked down on the other colors as nothing more than background characters. Everything changed during a kindergarten play based on the story of Momotaro. Ichiru wanted to play the hero, but there were too many kids and not enough important roles. To avoid upsetting everyone's parents, the teachers turned the hero's servants into random animal companions. As a result, Ichiru got cast as a frilled-necked lizard. Even though he does not get the lead role, Ichiru gives it his all. He goes off script and creates an emotional sacrifice scene where the frilled-necked lizard shields Momotaro from an attack. The audience bursts into tears. Other children cry for the fallen lizard, and the teachers praise Ichiru's performance. He feels an overwhelming sense of achievement, fulfillment, and pure happiness. That is the moment everything begins. From then on, Ichiru stops focusing only on the main character. He starts paying more attention to the Green Ranger, the Professor, the Chief, and even the old mentor characters. Later, when he enters elementary school, he starts feeling a little isolated. While everyone else cheers for the main characters, he finds himself rooting for the side characters instead. To him, people seriously underestimate supporting roles. After all, it is the countless background characters who make a story's world feel real and alive. Ichiru decides that he will prove this theory once and for all. His first target is a shy transfer student from Okinawa named Ishida. Ichiru chooses him because he is a loner who spends recess practicing soccer kick-ups by himself. In other words, he radiates undiscovered main character energy. Ichiru immediately appoints himself as Ishida's producer. He jumps into the role of a goalkeeper and starts creating an entire character concept for him. He gives Ishida an over-the-top special move called the Chinsuko Bazooka and even a trademark habit of chewing sugarcane. Ishida is understandably confused and slightly terrified, but Ichiru refuses to back down. In his mind, every memorable protagonist needs a clear and easy-to-understand gimmick. Against all odds, the plan works perfectly. Ishida transforms from a quiet outsider into one of the most popular boys in class. When Ishida asks why Ichiru goes so far to help him, Ichiru humbly reasons that he sees himself as a plain and unremarkable side character. After turning one shy transfer student into a full-fledged protagonist, he continues to identify people with hidden hero potential. That was the turning point of Bro's life. From that point on, Kobayashi Ichiru no longer sees himself as just a supporting character. He becomes a professional producer of protagonists. Ichiru's producer career continues with incredible success. But deep down, Ichiru knows something is missing. None of those boys is the person he truly wants to support. The one he searches for is someone so extraordinary that the entire world seems to exist only as the background for his story. His ideal protagonist, the one true hero. Ichiru vows to find him. He spends his days searching for the perfect main character, and then, on the very first day of high school, he finally meets him. The moment Ichiru lays eyes on Hinamori Ryuga, his eyes sparkle like he unlocks a 5-star character on the first pull. Ryuga's presence is so overwhelming that Ichiru instantly realizes this boy is on a completely different level. Ichiru nervously introduces himself and asks if they are in the same class. He gives his name, Kobayashi Ichiru, and waits for the reply. When the boy calmly says his name is Hinamori Ryuga, Ichiru nearly ascends. Even their names feel worlds apart. Ichiru notes that his own surname contains the character for woods, while Ryuga's contains the character for forest. Ichiru excitedly tells him that his name sounds like it belongs to an anime protagonist. To his surprise, Ryuga admits he does not really like it, as his name makes him feel bound to his destiny and unable to escape it until the day he dies. Ichiru can barely contain his excitement. A cool name, mysterious aura, and dramatic lines about unavoidable destiny. In Ichiru's eyes, Ryuga is pure main character material. The legendary protagonist he has been searching for his entire life may finally stand right in front of him. Ichiru cheerfully tells him that he hopes they get along, but Ryuga gives him a warning not to concern himself with him. Those words strike Ichiru right in the heart. He becomes even more impressed. In his mind, only a true protagonist gives cryptic warnings like that on the first day of school. My God, he is cool. This boy is definitely the main character of something. But the surprises do not end there. Later, during the class self-introductions, Ryuga stands up and calmly introduces himself. He explains that, due to family circumstances, he spent his life in a secluded region of China before enrolling at this school. At that instant, Ichiru makes up his mind to become his friend and support him. And even in introducing himself in class, he calls himself Ryuga's friend, which is insane. The scene shifts to 1 year later. Ichiru notices that his chaotic energy slowly rubs off on Ryuga. He no longer makes that annoyed face all the time, and now actually laughs at Ichiru's stupid jokes. Mission successful. Ichiru tells Ryuga a completely ridiculous story about having a conversation with his own fart, and Ryuga laughs while calling it total nonsense. Seeing the cool protagonist smile at his dumb jokes makes Ichiru feel like he won an Oscar for Best Supporting Character. He then shows off the latest update to his Best Babes list. Ryuga wonders why he wastes so much energy on something so useless. Secretly, Ichiru agrees, but he has to stay in character. The loud, easily excited idiot friend cannot break the script now. Without missing a beat, Ichiru suggests they go to the pool. When Ryuga says he does not like swimming, Ichiru casually explains that they are not going there to swim, but simply to enjoy the atmosphere. Ryuga immediately questions what Ichiru thinks pools are actually for. Before the conversation can continue, Ryuga suddenly clutches his chest in pain. His eyes begin to glow, and a strange aura leaks from his body. Inside, Ichiru panics. This has to be the dangerous power sealed within Ryuga losing control. His mind quickly runs through all the clues. Ryuga never speaks about his past, sometimes vanishes from class, often returns with unexplained injuries, and always seems to attract attention from mysterious girls. Now, he is glowing in the middle of the day. Even so, Ichiru reminds himself that his role is to act like the carefree best friend who notices nothing unusual. He laughs it off outwardly, while internally hoping that one of the heroines will appear and help the struggling protagonist. After all, moments like this are supposed to belong to them, not him. Meanwhile, Ryuga is clearly in pain, and Ichiru feels genuinely worried. Just as the tension reaches its peak, a mysterious rumbling sound echoes nearby. Then, as suddenly as it begins, Ryuga's body returns to normal. He takes several deep breaths as the strange storm inside his body finally settles down. Ichiru stares in confusion. Just like that, it is over, and not a single heroine shows up to help. Bro waits for a romance event, but the game refuses to load the cutscene. Trying to act casual, Ichiru asks if Ryuga is okay and whether he is getting enough sleep. Ryuga smiles and sincerely thanks him for worrying. He insists that it is nothing serious and tells him there is no need to be concerned. Ichiru nods, even though he is screaming internally about the glowing eyes, mysterious aura, and earthquake sound effects. Before he can say anything else, Rei suddenly appears and tells Ryuga to come with her. Ichiru instantly labels her as another heroine candidate and notes with great respect that she is a third-year student with overwhelming senpai energy. Staying true to his role as the shameless comic relief friend, Ichiru loudly teases them and wonders what kind of relationship they have. Rei, clearly used to his nonsense, says she has no time for his antics and takes Ryuga away. Ichiru dramatically begs Rei to take him instead, even clinging to her leg and calling her Onisama. Rei immediately scolds him and tells him to show some restraint, a brutal but expected rejection. As the two walk off together, Ichiru collapses in despair and cries over the fact that it always has to be Ryuga, but after a moment, his curiosity gets the better of him. Instead of going straight home, he decides to secretly follow them and see what kind of protagonist event is about to unfold. Ichiru sneaks after Aogasaki Rei and Hinamori Ryuga like a low-budget ninja. Until now, he has avoided getting involved in the main story, but his curiosity finally wins. At the very least, he wants to know what that dragon-like aura actually is. His best guess? Some guardian deity living inside Ryuga. Honestly, that sounds way too on-brand. Peeking through a small gap in the dojo, Ichiru sees Ryuga already training while Rei attacks him with a sword. He also remembers that Rei does not belong to any club. Just like Ryuga, she avoids normal school activities so she can stay ready for mysterious battles at any time. Their teenage years are basically all side quests and boss fights. Watching them spar, Ichiru becomes even more convinced that his theory is correct. This town is full of unexplained incidents and monster attacks, and Ryuga is clearly fighting in a secret war between light and darkness. Meanwhile, Ichiru proudly accepts his own duty to make the everyday life arc fun by acting as the clueless comic relief friend. After training, Ryuga sits down to meditate. Rei then asks if the guardian deity inside him starts going out of control again. Ichiru nearly explodes with excitement. So it really is a guardian god. Jackpot. Ryuga admits that he barely manages to suppress it until now. Rei explains that he has been using his powers more often lately, and because of that, the being inside him may be approaching its true awakening. The dragon god within Ryuga is slowly waking up, and from his hiding spot, Ichiro trembles with excitement like a fan who has just uncovered the biggest spoiler in the entire series. Ichiru is stunned when he hears them casually call the power inside Hinamori Ryuga the Dragon God. In his mind, that name is way too basic. If you are housing an ancient cosmic beast, at least give it a premium fantasy name like Leviathan or Jörmungandr. Branding matters. Ryuga calmly says he will be fine and refuses to let himself be consumed by the Dragon God's power. Aogasaki Rei tells him she has complete faith in him and says he is the only man who earns her approval. That line hits with enough force to trigger a romance flag instantly. After training ends, Ichiru remains outside, still brainstorming cooler names for the Dragon God. Just then, Ryuga steps out, lurking like a suspicious NPC. Panicking, Ichiru quickly covers Ryuga's mouth and claims they are on a mission of critical importance. Since he cannot admit that he has been spying on them, he blurts out the first excuse that comes to mind. They are going to peek at Rei while she changes. Ryuga lets out a deeply disappointed sigh. He realizes that Ichiru has been hanging around just for this ridiculous reason. With full protagonist integrity, he immediately says they should stop because it is not the right thing to do. Truly, the moral standards of this protagonist remain undefeated. Ichiru dramatically asks Ryuga if he is really going to turn his back on this. Ryuga immediately warns that they are dead if Rei catches them. Ichiru remembers the time he saw Rei slice a runaway truck clean in half, and the thought of being cut in two makes his soul leave his body for a second. Even so, Ichiru convinces himself that Ryuga's everyday life needs exciting events like this. As the designated best friend, he proudly accepts his sacred duty to create chaotic, slice-of-life moments. Truly, this man treats friendship like a full-time production job, acting far braver than he actually feels. Ichiru declares that he is going in and prepares to witness the legendary Golden Hills. As he peeks through the window, his eyes start twitching from sheer panic and anticipation. Bro is buffering in 4K, but just as the moment reaches its peak, the cold air makes him sneeze loudly. Ichiru tries to save face by mentally claiming that he practiced sneezing on command for situations exactly like this. The delusion is strong with this one. Rei immediately appears at the window and catches the two red-handed. Furious and embarrassed, she glares at them with enough killing intent to start a boss battle. Ichiru screams that they are busted. Even while facing certain death, Ichiru cannot help but admire Rei's flustered reaction. In his mind, the serious heroine delivers exactly the kind of classic anime response he hopes for. His final thought before the inevitable punishment is that this scene is absolute perfection. Rei grabs a wooden stick and chases the two boys like an enraged final boss. Ryuga and Kobayashi Ichiru run for their lives, but escape is impossible. In the next scene, they sit on the floor like guilty children, while Agasaki Rei stands over them with terrifying teacher energy. Rei asks if they have anything to say for themselves. Both boys immediately deny. That turns out to be the wrong choice. Rei furiously offers them 4 punishments, and all of them are death. Ichiru, still unable to read the room, tries to flirt and asks if she can blow his mind with her beauty. She gets even angrier and accuses him of dragging Ryuga into this against his will. Panicking, Ichiru instantly throws Ryuga under the bus and claims the exact opposite of what actually happened. He insists that Ryuga is the one who talks about it and that he is a very good boy. Ryuga quietly points out that none of that is true. Best friend loyalty.exe has stopped working. Rei then asks Ichiru for his last words. Instead of apologizing, he makes another awkward comment. Critical mistake. Rei's face turns bright red, tears form in her eyes, and she screams for him to die. A second later, her wooden stick crashes down onto his head. As Ichiru starts losing consciousness, he glances at Ryuga and suddenly realizes something terrifying. That second hit definitely comes from Ryuga too. Even the protagonist has limits. The scene shifts to Ichiru walking through town and admiring how Ryuga never breaks the MC character, even on his days off. Even a normal Sunday somehow turns into another protagonist event. And right on cue, Ichiru runs into the elegant Yukimiya Shiori. He instantly senses that Shiori is waiting for Ryuga, and her blush basically confirms it. In his mind, she remains a top-tier heroine candidate. Graceful, popular, rich, and almost certainly hiding supernatural powers. At this point, being normal at this school becomes the real plot twist. Shiori shyly asks if he happens to be Kobayashi Ichiru, Hinomori-kun's friend. Ichiru feels genuinely touched that someone as popular as her remembers the name of a random side character from another class. Emotional damage. That alone tells him that Shiori remains a kind and thoughtful girl, but at the same time, he cannot help feeling a little betrayed. Of course, she remembers his name because she clearly likes Ryuga. Ichiro secretly complains that she missed a perfect chance to act more playfully. In his mind, if she wants to survive the brutal competition for Hinomori Ryuga, she needs stronger heroine energy. Shiori shyly asks what Ryuga is usually like. Ichiru instantly understands that this is heroine homework. Of course, she wants insider info on the protagonist. The girl comes prepared. He tells her that Ryuga is kind of a weirdo. He disappears at random, never shows what he is thinking, and somehow becomes insanely good at cooking because his parents are rarely home. But unlike Ichiru, Ryuga always has his life together and would definitely treat his future girlfriend right. Massive green flag energy. Inside, Ichiru celebrates his ultimate best friend technique. Roast your bro first, then hype him up so hard that his stock price goes to the moon. He then wishes Shiori good luck, reminding her that the competition for Ryuga is fierce. Ryuga secretly likes romantic movies, so watching one together would be a top-tier move. Blushing like crazy, she thanks him for the advice. Ichiru suddenly realizes he might have messed up. Getting this friendly with Yukimiya Shiori without Hinomori Ryuga around feels way too direct for a supporting character. Bro accidentally steals the protagonist's screen time. Major. Oops. Panicking, he grabs Shiori and tells her to forget everything. They never meet, they never talk, and if she tells Ryuga, she will experience his legendary roaring elbow strike. Then he bolts away like a train with no brakes. Shiori stands there completely confused. A moment later, Ryuga arrives and asks if she has been waiting long. Shiori awkwardly says nothing is wrong. Hidden nearby, Ichiru sighs in relief. He narrowly avoided the protagonist's entrance, but his mission is not over yet. Ichiru immediately jumps back into the scene and pretends to be shocked. He loudly asks why Ryuga and Shiori are together and accuses them of being on a date. Bro shouts so hard that the whole neighborhood gets free spoilers. Ryuga tries to deny it, but Ichiru only gets louder. He complains that he spends Sunday alone while Ryuga enjoys a secret date, then dramatically calls him a traitor living the dream. Ryuga insists that he and Shiori are just friends, but Ichiru immediately loses his mind when he hears Ryuga call her by her first name. He starts shouting about Rina, the childhood friend from Class 2E, and accuses Ryuga of attracting people wherever he goes. Ichiru proudly calls this another successful day as a professional best friend. Meanwhile, Shiori looks at him with concern. The next day in class, Ichiru keeps teasing Ryuga and demands juicy information about Shiori. Ryuga sighs and once again insists that they are only friends. At that moment, several classmates invited Elmira to karaoke. Ichiru immediately identifies her as yet another heroine candidate. She is a beautiful red-haired transfer student from Eastern Europe, and like every attractive girl in this school, she already has her own fan club. Elmira politely refuses, saying she does not feel comfortable in crowded places, but after a brief pause, she adds that she would not mind going if Ryuga comes too. Ichiru's protagonist radar explodes once again. Because Elmira invites Ryuga to karaoke, Ichiru ends up going too as collateral damage. He does not care about karaoke, and Elmira is not really his type, but whenever Ryuga gets dragged into a school event, Ichiru automatically follows. It is basically an unwritten law. While the group keeps spamming Last Christmas like a broken playlist, Elmira tries to get Ryuga to sing, but he refuses as he is not good at it. Ichiru immediately worries that this could become a major issue if Ryuga ever gets a character song. When Ryuga leaves for the bathroom, Ichiru becomes suspicious. This feels exactly like the kind of event where a heroine follows the protagonist for a secret romantic scene. His side character instincts go on high alert. Then Elmira quietly reveals that she wants to drink Ryuga's blood and use her powers. Ichiru nearly stops functioning. In one sentence, she confirms that she is literally a vampire. Casual, supernatural confession. Zero hesitation. Panicking, Ichiru rushes to the bathroom, fully expecting to witness some vampire blood-drinking event. Instead, he finds Ryuga sitting there alone, like nothing unusual happens. Ichiru stares in complete confusion. Plot twist denied. Ryuga admits that he feels uneasy around large groups and says he always feels most relaxed when he spends time with Kobayashi Ichiru. Hearing that, Ichiru nearly unlocks an emotional achievement. Best friend route reaches max affinity. Even so, Ichiru thinks that Elmira should be the one sharing this moment. A battle-worn protagonist and a lonely vampire heroine bonding over their inability to live normal lives sounds like peak romance material. But since he is the one standing here, Ichiru decides to make the most of it. For once, he drops the idiot act and asks Ryuga if he is hiding something from him. This is the rare support character move where the comic relief suddenly becomes surprisingly perceptive. Character development unlocked. Ryuga hesitates and finally prepares to reveal the truth. Ichiro internally begs him not to say it. He wants confirmation that Ryuga has secrets, but he does not actually want the spoiler before the season finale. Just as Ryuga starts confessing, a clerk suddenly collapses in front of them. Then Ichiru notices that the other customers have also fallen unconscious, and the karaoke rooms go completely silent. Ichiru instantly panics and realizes that this might be it. He has officially wandered into the battle arc. What starts as a normal karaoke session suddenly turns into a full-on evil episode that invades the protagonist's peaceful daily life. He points out that all the staff and customers collapse, but that is not what truly scares him. His role only covers the slice-of-life scenes. Nobody gives him a script for what to do when the main story actually begins. NPC enters the combat zone and has no tutorial. Trying his best to stay in character, Ichiru frantically asks Ryuga if they should call the police. That's the best excuse comes to his dumb mind. Ryuga calmly explains that powerful hypno waves put everyone to sleep. Their lives are not in danger, but the only way to wake them is to stop the source upstairs. Ichiru internally short-circuits. Ryuga casually drops terms like hypno waves, as if that counts as a normal explanation. Still refusing to accept this as reality, Ichiru mentally begs him to sugarcoat it with something cute, like a magical creature singing a lullaby. Just then, Elmira rushes in and reports that everyone in the booth has also collapsed. Ichiru immediately notices that the mysterious vampire heroine remains completely unaffected. Ryuga quickly figures out that the karaoke manager causes the hypno waves. Elmira confirms that she senses a strange presence too, and proudly announces that the manager escapes to the roof. Ryuga and Elmira rush upstairs, while Ryuga tells Kobayashi Ichiru to take care of everyone else. Ichiru feels oddly proud. This is exactly what happens to the protagonist's best friend in every story. While the heroes fight the final boss, the side character handles the civilians like an unpaid intern. Even though it sounds like a lot to ask from a regular high school student, Ichiru throws himself into the role. He carries the unconscious guests and staff to safety, checks every booth, and makes sure no one gets seriously hurt. Support character grindset activated. Once everything settles down, there's nothing left for him to do, so he returns to the karaoke room and sings Last Christmas by himself for the third time. Bro really starts a solo concert while the rooftop battle happens overhead. A little later, Ryuga finally comes back. Ichiru immediately asks where he has been, and Ryuga casually claims that he was only checking the other floors. Ichiru stares at him in silence. After everything that just happened, that excuse sounds about as believable as a villain saying, "Trust me, bro." Ichiru immediately notices that something feels off with Hinamori Ryuga. Then he overhears Elmira thanking Ryuga for the meal and praising how delicious his blood tastes. Sweetest of wines. Totally normal conversation. Ichiru's brain enters emergency mode. He desperately tells himself that he heard nothing and knows nothing, but the truth becomes painfully obvious. Elmira is 100% a vampire. Bro gets supernatural spoilers whether he likes it or not. After the karaoke incident, Ichiru changes his strategy. When Ryuga and Elmira once again ask to leave class because they are not feeling well, Ichiru immediately fakes a cough and asks to go too. His acting deserves an award. The teacher is not convinced, but somehow it works. From a safe distance, Ichiru watches as Ryuga and his mysterious companions rush off to another battle. He decides that learning more about the main story will help him avoid getting dragged into it and will also improve his performance as the ultimate best friend. The more he understands the plot, the better he can support the protagonist while staying one step away from the actual danger. After a few secret stakeouts, Side MC finally figures out the party composition. Yukimiya Shiori handles support, slowing enemies and healing wounds. Rei serves as the frontline fighter, slicing through anything with her vacuum blade. And Elmira acts as the sub-DPS, using blood-based fire attacks from mid-range. Also, she is very obviously a vampire. Casual reveal of the century. Ichiru confidently concludes that one of these three girls must become Ryuga's main heroine. He silently cheers them on and politely asks the universe to keep things PG-13. Almost as soon as he thinks that, Shiori gets caught by a monster and needs rescuing. Ichiru immediately recognizes this as a textbook heroine event. The script practically writes itself. As for Hinamori Ryuga, Ichiru reaches one terrifying conclusion. The guy can basically do everything. He uses healing, fire, and even techniques similar to his teammates' abilities. Ryuga then obliterates the monster almost single-handedly, proving once again that his enemies never stand a chance. Watching from the shadows, Ichiru can only marvel at how absurdly broken his best friend really is. After several stealth missions, Ichiru finally uncovers the full story. The enemies are the Apostles of Gehenna, invaders from a parallel world who once tried to conquer Earth. Although they were defeated long ago, a distortion in this town allows them to return and attempt to revive their sleeping king, the devil. Ichiru quickly realizes what that means. If the devil awakens near the end of the story, the city, the school, and even his own house could be destroyed. His father still has unpaid loans, so the apocalypse would come with bonus debt. Side characters truly suffer the most. He also learns that the dragon god passes down through the Hinamori family, making Hinamori Ryuga special from birth. And because the apostles return right when Ryuga inherits that power, he is basically the chosen one. Bro collects information like taxes. Satisfied with his investigation, he decides he now knows enough to play his role as the carefree best friend more effectively. But just as Ryuga and his three heroine companions prepare to head home, Ichiru accidentally makes eye contact with them while hiding behind a panda statue. He awkwardly raises his hand and says hello like a criminal caught in 4K, stealth level 0. Ryuga and the girls stare at him in complete shock, and in that instant, Ichiru hears the most terrifying sound of all. The friendship status he worked so hard to build begins to crumble before his eyes. The next day in class, Ryuga casually greets the second-hand MC as if nothing had happened. Ichiru immediately points at the sleepy Elmira and asks if she keeps dozing off because she is a creature of the night. Ryuga calmly explains that she simply has low blood pressure. Ichiru feels deeply disappointed that her vampire settings are not being used to their full potential. After getting caught spying, Ryuga finally reveals the truth about their secret battles. Ichiru already knows most of it, but hearing it directly forces him to retire his old role as the clueless best friend. His new class changes to Secret Keeper Support Unit. Character evolution complete. Even with this upgrade, Ichiro remains determined to focus on the slice-of-life parts of the story. The only difference now is that he can openly cheer for Ryuga and ask for spoiler updates from the battle arc. Premium friendship access unlocked. He quietly asks whether any dangerous apostles have appeared recently. Ryuga explains that the enemies grow stronger, but the team is not losing yet. Ichiro then asks about a monster that steals souls from women, and Ryuga casually reveals that they defeated it 3 days earlier. Ichiro immediately relaxes. One more weird threat was removed from the patch notes, but then Ryuga mentions that Shiori and Rei both volunteer to act as decoys. Ichiro's eyes widen at once. In his mind, this can only lead to one thing: jealousy, romantic tension, and heroine competition going absolutely wild. Ryuga hurriedly denies that anything romantic happens with the heroines, then freezes when Ichiro calls them heroines to his face. Ichiro feels relieved about his new role. Now he no longer needs to sneak around bushes like a budget ninja. Whenever he wants battle updates, he can simply ask Ryuga directly and get the patch notes from the source. He asks whether Ryuga faces any harsh trials lately, but Ryuga casually says no, and even smiles. Ichiro immediately yells, asking what is so funny. Ryuga admits that he feels genuinely happy. Even after learning his secret, Ichiro still acts the same. He confesses that he worries their friendship might take a fall. Ichiro proudly declares that they are buddies no matter what, and that he will always stand by Ryuga's side. Ryuga grows serious and asks what Ichiro would do if he were still hiding another secret. Ichiro realizes he steps onto dangerous lore territory, so he answers carefully. He tells Ryuga that some burdens take time to share, and he will wait until his friend feels ready. Inside, however, Ichiro panics. He barely survives the first secret and has zero intention of getting dragged deeper into the main plot. Ryuga becomes visibly emotional and starts thanking him, but before he can finish, he suddenly collapses as the dragon god's power goes wild again. This time, Ichiro drops the goofy act completely. Now that he knows the truth, he feels it is his duty as Ryuga's best friend to worry for real. He rushes to his side and shouts in panic, asking what is wrong. Ryuga struggles to calm Ichiro down, telling him to relax while he catches his breath. Ichiro, however, points at the invisible dragon god and yells at it like a dog owner at the park, ordering it to sit down and stop bullying his best friend. After a few tense moments, Ryuga regains control and slowly stands up. Ichiro asks, completely out of breath, whether the dragon god rage quit. Ryuga quietly nods and says that it passes. By now, Ichiro fully understands that this strange episode happens about once a week, yet somehow, not a single heroine rushes to comfort Ryuga, even when one stands right next to him. Ichiro feels personally offended by this terrible harem management and mentally vows to draw on their faces for poor performance. But Ryuga does not look relieved. Instead, he seems deeply troubled. A few days later, Ichiro returns to his usual nonsense and proudly announces that he has obtained a fresh update to his totally useless Best Girls database, complete with overly detailed character stats. He offers to share every detail as if it were classified intelligence. Ryuga shuts him down immediately and tells him to knock it off. Then he quietly adds that Ichiro will need to go home alone again. Ichiro freezes on the spot. Ryuga starts acting distant and his heart takes critical damage. He begins spiraling at once. Did he do something wrong? That would be fine unless a brand new best friend enters the story. The mere thought terrifies him. If some cooler, funnier, and more considerate sidekick replaces him, his entire role in the series could get patched out. Worst of all, the new guy might even possess forbidden powers. Ichiro dramatically cries and grabs Ryuga, demanding to know whether he got a girlfriend, or even worse, a brand new best friend. Ryuga panics and firmly denies both, adding that he could never have a better friend than Ichiro. Ichiro's eyes instantly sparkle with relief. Thank goodness. The world does not need another certified lad competing for his job. That leaves only one possibility. Ryuga still hides another secret. Ichiro decides that, as a supporting character, he absolutely must not pry into it. If even the heroines do not know, then learning the truth first would be a blatant violation of side character etiquette. Soon after, Ryuga slips away before the second period, and none of the heroines follow him. Ichiro immediately starts overthinking. This can only mean one of two things. Either Ryuga enters a solo power-up arc, or a brand new heroine prepares to debut. His imagination runs wild. Maybe she is an underclassman, maybe she has some broken ability, maybe she steals all the screen time and forces a balance update to the entire cast. Still, what bothers him most is much simpler. Being ignored by Ryuga feels awful. Unable to focus on class, Ichiru abandons school before the third period and heads to the nurse's office to think in peace. In his mind, this crisis matters far more than anything in the textbook. The nurse is nowhere to be found, but one bed is already occupied by someone sleeping behind the curtain. Ichiru decides to quietly use the other bed and avoid waking this mysterious slacker. He quietly peeks behind the curtain and finds a beautiful girl sleeping peacefully beneath the blanket. At that moment, every single brain cell in his head logs out. To be fair, Ichiro does not actually care that much about girls. His so-called best babes list is mostly part of his professional duties as the resident awkward friend, but he is still a healthy teenage boy, and the sight before him deals critical damage to his composure. For one glorious moment, he thanks the heavens for this accidental event. If Ryuga were here, Ichiru would nobly offer him the front row seat. Since no heroine is around, and he is completely alone, Ichiru convinces himself that taking one quick look will be a treat to his eyes. Then the sleeping girl begins to stir. Ichiru panics and prepares to retreat, mourning the end of this once-in-a-lifetime bonus scene. But the moment he sees her face clearly, his soul leaves his body. The beautiful girl is none other than Ryuga. Ichiru's brain immediately crashes. The protagonist secretly turned into a girl, and somehow this story becomes even more unhinged than before.
Here I am, know it's been a while.